It's my anniversary. Yes, this is my 28th year being single, but it's also my anniversary as a dark fantasy author. 10 years ago, I published my first short story on Amazon for 99 cents called Every Day My Sisters Try to Kill Me. It was based off of my little brother and one of my little cousins. It was riddled with mistakes, but the story idea was pretty fire if I do say so myself. During this decade, writing has become the first meaningful thing that I've dedicated myself to. There was a lot of self-gratification and there was a lot of pain. And through that pain was a lot of growth. And here are some of the things that I learned through all of that growth. You're going to have to intentionally commit. I'd love to say that I was one of those writers who had this overwhelming urge to just write every second of the day, and writing just came so easily that even in my sleep I was writing, which was not the case. I think for me personally, because writing was a means of survival, and I do mean spiritual and emotional survival, that constantly coming back to writing was such a relief for me that it was basically my medicine that I just kept coming back to and stuck with. But in between those moments, writing was something that I had to intentionally come back to again and again and again. It was something that I had to intentionally commit to. So you get to 10 years as a active published writer by committing to it every day. Or at least 3 times a week, you know. Number 2 is you have to build a community around yourself. 30% of your career as an author or an artist period is going to be you writing and creating, and the other 70% is going to be you marketing yourself through your socials, book clubs, and building an interest for your work. Some people are going to take a chance on your work and fall in love with your work and your work alone, but based on how the economy is going and how business is growing, most people are going to fall in love with you and take a chance on you long before they ever pick up your work. Which brings me to my next point, number 3, you have to get comfortable with delayed gratification and learning when to tell the difference between when it's just delayed gratification and when it's something that's never going to happen. There are many crafts and businesses where the nature of the craft is that you get the fruit last. The fruit and spoils of your labor are always the last things to grow and to show up. And you can really experience that through a craft such as writing, because you experience that delayed gratification almost through every stage of the process. Before you can feel satisfied that you've written a completed book, you have to spend months of actually writing the book before you can say that you've actually completed it. Before you can feel the satisfaction of being a published author, you have to go through the rounds of editing and beta readers and formatting, which can take more months, up to a year, before you can say that you've published it. If you want to feel the satisfaction of getting your first review, you have to wait until the person not only buys the book but then finishes reading it, which can take weeks, up to a month, and then decide to review it before they post their thoughts on your book. In writing, the reward of what you've done always comes long after you've already done the thing. And even after a decade of being a published author, it wasn't until the beginning of this year where I actually started making decent, consistent income from my work. Number 4 is find what works for you as an author and have a mix between what is familiar and what works in the writing and publishing space, but also what works for you and makes you you. I used to think that my marketing content for my books had to look a specific way. It had to be the same, or it had to be what was normal in the publishing and writing space. So that meant like the book bingos or reading the excerpts and going to certain events, rubbing elbows with certain people, because marketing a book, especially a fiction book, just looked a very specific way. And I'm an intense person, and I mean intense in the way that I do way too much. I do absolutely the most. And when I would make content, I would find myself doing extra and doing the absolute most, but also trying to keep it in line and in the box of what I saw other authors and publishers marketing, how they're marketing their books. Although practicing and marketing my books in the way that I saw other authors and traditional traditional publishers marketing their work was very helpful and gave me a decent direction on where to go and how to start. It wasn't until when I started doing videos the way that I wanted to do them and showing my books the way that I wanted to show them that I actually started picking up on people's radar and growing as an author. It turns out me doing the absolute most on my videos and running my little social media accounts like it's a whole movie production is what made me stand out as an author. It's what made me unique. I wasn't just a self-published author anymore. I grew into the dark fantasy author who creates many cinematic masterpieces. And that's way better than the title that I was just trying to be known for. Number 5 is to keep practicing your writing, your marketing, and your social presence, even if you feel like your skills don't quite match your vision. Because it's all practice and it's the only way that you're going to get better. I remember when I had an ex-friend when I was starting my YouTube channel a couple years ago, and I was really getting into it and I was excited, and I just learned how to use the green screen on my computer app, even though I wasn't good at it. And I wasn't really an actor like that because I never practiced and I didn't have any prior training, and I was still learning how to edit. Regardless, I was super excited. I created this video with all the fixins, and I knew it wasn't professional level. I knew it couldn't compete on any level with anything professional out there, but I at least thought it had potential. So when I went to show her this thing that I was so proud of, this video that I was so proud of making, she said that maybe I should wait until I actually got better before I showed people and posted it. And in the grand scheme of things, of course, I think that her heart was in a good place and maybe she was just trying to help. But if I would have waited to get better, then I would have never gotten better, because I would have continuously put off the practice and getting the feedback that I needed to get better. I still have some of my cringy content on my YouTube and on my TikTok, but only through working through those emotions did I learn to become better. Number 6 is being a successful anything, but in this instance, a successful author, is all about confidence. I learned this one from my dad. It's all about building confidence. When I look back on when I published my first short story piece, every day my sisters tried to kill me. Of course I was nervous about it. I didn't know what people would think about it, and I was just really scared to publish it. But once I published it, if my immediate family didn't make such a big deal about it and went out to buy it, it was only 99 cents on Amazon, but went out to buy it and left their reviews and really bigged me up on it, my confidence skyrocketed. And as a 17-year-old at that time, that completely solidified my confidence in being able and wanting to continue to write and publish my work. Each time I would publish something and put something out there, of course I was scared. I was scared of the feedback. I was terrified that someone wouldn't like it, which of course is always a strong possibility. But in putting it out there and doing it anyway, and seeing that I'm okay and living through the fear and living through the anxiousness, I learned to be able to become resilient and do it more and more. The rejection, the fear, the feedback, I still felt it to a degree, and sometimes you're going to just continue to feel it, but I no longer felt it to the degree that it was debilitating or it deterred me from continuing to write and to publish. Even with my social media presence, I was painfully shy. I was self-conscious. I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to look like I was trying too hard to do something that other people thought was nothing, that other people thought was lame or didn't value. But I've learned that overcoming those emotions is an act of maturing in your craft and maturing in and of itself. It takes a level of self and spiritual maturity to set your ego aside and put your work out there anyway and give it your all, so the work is the best that it can possibly be, regardless of how you think it makes you look. Because if you believe in the work, it shouldn't matter how you look. So the more I put myself out there, the more I was able to overcome those initial moments of fear and anxiety. And the more I overcame those initial moments of fear and anxiety and did stuff anyway and put stuff out there anyway, the more resilient I became. So now whenever I started a new project or put something new out there, I'm used to being at that stage of starting something new, being completely scared out of my mind, being completely worried and anxious, thinking about how it makes me look, how it makes me look to other people, and doing it anyway, publishing it anyway, filming it anyway. Number 7, this may not sit well with some of my creatives, but think of yourself as a business. I know we're all artists and multifaceted beings, but you have to learn to think of yourself as a business in a way of detaching yourself on some level from your work in order to be able to promote it in any capacity that you're trying to promote it, whether that's for monetary gains or whether that's because you just want other people to see it and you just want to find your community of other fellow artists. But once you create the work, and even a little bit while you're creating the work, there has to be a level of detachment you have when you're promoting, because how you see yourself and all of the little things that you see about your work up close is not necessarily how other people are seeing you and experiencing you. And it's important to get a sense of how others are experiencing you so you're able to promote your work better and also promote it to the people that it's impacting the most. I remember seeing this comment one time on my socials where this woman was like, this is the first non-romance book, talking about my book, Royal Jelly. This is the first non-romance book that I've read in a long time that was able to hold my attention. So a bell went off and I started trying to learn what was it about this reader who primarily read romance, which I don't write yet. But what enticed this reader who primarily reads romance to want to pick up a dark fantasy book and then read it all the way through and actually enjoy it? And then once I learned that, I took that and just pushed it more. So now I'm able to make a post where I'm going, the first non-romance book that you've read in a long time that will da 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 da. And now I have other primarily romance readers wanting to give dark fantasy a try. And I remember around the time when I first published my novel Royal Jelly, and I was invited by one of my older cousins to her book club. They were reading my book during that month. I didn't expect it. And these were all well-matured women at the time. These were lawyers, doctors, judges. And I remember at that time that I was still so focused on trying to promote my work to a version of myself that I thought I was writing for, that 13-year-old girl who didn't have much money. So I was really keeping myself in that box of, no, I write for that 13-year-old girl who used books as an escape, who didn't have much money. And I was really trying to hold myself adamant to that because I felt like that was a pure intention of mine. But here comes this group of well-seasoned women who have lived some lives who are like, no, we like this too, we want to read this too. And they were making comments like, since we're professional women and our jobs require so much, we love reading these types of books that completely whisk us away to completely different worlds, and we have grown woman money, so you setting your prices to where your 300-page novels are you're only profiting $1 from your 300-page novels is only hurting yourself. That was a completely different mind shift for me. So there was a level of detachment that I had to learn to have, not only to protect and shield myself from the potential critics and uncalled for comments that eventually came throughout my career, but also to have an understanding of my true audience and who my work was actually resonating with, so I could continue to promote my work more accurately and to those people. And number 8, you guys heard this time and time again, consistency is key. Consistency is key. Whether that's showing up every single day to write just a little bit until you have a completed manuscript, working on one book at a time until you have a completed series, doing something minuscule a day or a week that meaningfully helps you move your career forward or your craft forward as a writer. Whether that's writing a bit or posting about yourself as a writer or studying about writing and implementing what you learned, consistently adding to yourself and building upon yourself as a writer and your voice is going to be the one thing that helps you actualize your vision as a writer, whatever that may look like.